Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed attempts to fuse high-stakes corporate blackmail with the frantic dark comedy of a domestic crisis, resulting in a tonal tightrope walk that completely subverts modern streaming conventions. We're going to deconstruct exactly how this bizarre structural gamble actually manages to pay off, anchoring a relentless pressure cooker that you won't be able to turn off. So what's the show about? When a divorced Queens fact-checker starts using an adult webcam boy as a paid pseudo-therapist, an amateur extortion scam rapidly spirals into a brutal real-world homicide. Trapped between the relentless corporate syndicate, ice-cold assassin, and a messy custody battle, she must weaponize her investigative instincts to survive her life completely imploding. Anytime I see Tatiana Maslany in anything, I'm in. Yes, I even liked She-Hulk, kinda. But it starts out with her just talking to this young guy online, kind of a therapy session, and then turns into a masturbation session right before the opening title hits. It transitions from that to like a fake kidnap scam to a very real and brutal blackmail thread, all within the span of a single episode. So it hooks you right in. And I've seen complaints about how Paula, Tatiana Maslany's main character, doesn't make logical choices in this. And I think that's the point. Like, Paula is a messy bitch, and that's what makes it so fun to watch. There's like a narrative joy of a protagonist who isn't just a hyper-competent action hero. We get to dive into Paula's deeply flawed and chaotic decision-making process. But even though she's messy in her personal life, she's a very good investigator. She uses her magazine fact-checking instincts to hunt down a physical address, only to walk directly into a homicide scene. Her ex-webcam boy, who is the one blackmailing her. And she's getting attacked from 3 different areas. You have Detective Gonzalez instantly pegging Paula as the prime suspect of the murdered webcam boy. You also have the chilling clockwork presence of Frank Budkin lurking in the periphery of her mundane routines. He's kind of like a more charismatic and queer Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. Then you have the domestic weaponization. It's Carl, her ex-husband, and his current wife Mallory using Paula's escalating paranoia as legal leverage to exile her to Idaho for custody of her daughter. I think this cast is phenomenal. It's amazing how Apple TV gets such big stars for their shows, and I am starting to think Apple TV is pretty on par with HBO with the quality of their shows. Now, I praise Tatiana Maslany, but I mean, she gives a great performance here. It's raw, existential terror to mundane frustration in a single breath. I think just these details help her, well, it helps the show kind of ground the plot. You have Jake Johnson as Carl, her ex-husband. And the show does something interesting with him. It avoids the evil ex trope by giving him like understandable motivations. I mean, they don't have all the information, and she's getting herself in some wild shit. You can kind of feel this in his performance, this bubbling repressed rage, but then there's also like a genuine exasperated desire to protect his kid from Paula's obvious tailspin, and he even kind of sympathizes with her at times. And we have to talk about Frank, played by Murray Bartlett, who you probably know from The Last of Us, probably one of the best episodes of that, and the first season of White Lotus. He's the queer Anton Chigurh I just mentioned earlier. And he's got a phenomenal introduction in the early episodes. He's introduced as like this pathetic sugar daddy to that webcam boy, and then he turns into this ice-cold, methodical menace. And that's kind of when the show shifts from dark comedy to genuine nightmare. And I have to shout out the score for this from Win Bennett. It's like this relentless tick-tocking clock tempo beneath a mundane suburban scene. It's like turning a youth soccer game into a sequence filled with Hitchcockian dread. Almost kind of having this bubbling anxiety like you get from like a Savdi film. And these episodes are only like 30, 40 minutes. They get in and they tell a story and then they get out. And it usually ends with a great cliffhanger. And that's why I love these weekly releases. You get to kind of discuss it online, what's going to happen, everyone's theories. And showrunner David J. Rosen's explicit war on prestige TV fatigue. I mean, the pacing is just on point. It turns like a 60-minute streaming bloat down to an airtight, propulsive 30-40 minute framework where the character Panic drives the comedy and the thriller engine never idles. And this was produced by David Gordon Green, who also directed the first episode. Kind of rejects the rigid and heavily blocked thriller tropes, and plenty of chaotic comedy beats, just in the middle of like high stakes scenes rather than locking them into like a standard genre geometry. And I like how they used UI and webcams and phone screens. It's like an atmospheric exploration of modern isolation and voyeurism that makes the audience complicit and Paula's oversharing. With that said, I want to talk about the finale and where it leads everything for a possible season 2, and maybe explore some of the themes of the show. So if you want to see my overall spoiler-free thoughts, check the chapter down below, but let's talk about that finale. So this goes from localized Queen's thriller into an expansive, sinister corporate dynamic. So it reveals that Trevor, the cam boy, his webcam operation wasn't just digital extortion racket targeting middle-class marks. Paula exposes Cecilia Vanderwall, the elite global risk advisory firm, the Souter Group. A fixer dentist was systematically utilizing Trevor's intimate recordings of high-profile, powerful clients to blackmail them into total corporate compliance, forcing the transfer of patents and manipulating zoning laws and tilting political elections to favor the syndicate's shadowy financial investors. Trevor was executed purely because his sloppy amateur extortion of Paula brought police attention too close to the gold mine. The Souter Group insulates itself by aggressively manufacturing a flawless legal reality for Paula. Dennis, who's recovering from getting shot in the face by Paula a few episodes earlier, is thrown off a rooftop fitted with a forged suicide note confessing to Trevor's murder, which completely exonerates Paula. Then there's Jennifer, who is another hitman, hit woman. It's like she was a fake attorney earlier, and she's executed in a remote location by her boss Brian to permanently clip the syndicate's loose ends. And while the department officially closes the case under the suicide banner, a surviving Detective Baxter and the sharp, affable Detective Sofia Gonzalez promise to keep digging beneath the official narrative. And that's because the CEO of this company, her kid got into college in some nefarious way, and then Paula's gonna rat him out and get him kicked out of that school. So it's kind of wrapped up in a neat little bow, this ending, and I don't know if I completely like it. That's sort of some of my criticisms of this. But let's continue with the ending, because that's just not everything that happens. So with the murder suspects cleared to show transition into a high-intensity courtroom drama, Carl and Mallory attempt to weaponize a webcam scandal to prove Paula's unfitness in custody court. And this is when Tatiana Maslany delivers a fiercely raw, impassioned speech capturing the harrowing essence of post-divorce isolation and the unbreakable bond with her daughter. The judge rules in Paula's favor. She retains custody. Hazel stays in New York, and Carl and Mallory are left to pack their bags for Idaho empty-handed. Just as Paula achieves absolute domestic and legal victory, the show drops its most devastating twists. She receives an anonymous text featuring unedited home security footage from her past life in Portland. So this is another subplot, because all season Paula claimed that running over a man named Caleb was a tragic split-second act of self-defense. The footage reveals the chilling reality. Caleb was standing entirely still in her headlights, and Paula intentionally accelerated, running him down out of pure, unadulterated rage. The phone rings. The syndicate now owns her through definitive proof of murder, drafting her into a new, infinitely more dangerous loop of modern paranoia. As I'm recording this hasn't been greenlit for a season 2 yet. But if it does, these are some of my predictions of what's going to happen. Armed with the Caleb footage, the Souter Group won't lock Paula away. They will weaponize her professional background as an elite magazine fact-checker for corporate espionage, data manipulation, and high-level blackmail profiling. So Paula will probably lead a crushing double life. By day, she must project the image of the perfect mom who triumphantly won her custody battle. By night, she is actively destroying lives under corporate duress. Then there's detectives Gonzalez and Baxter, who will operate as a rogue investigative unit, bypassed by their own department. They will focus heavily on why an ordinary queen's mother was suddenly and magically insulated from a high-profile homicide charge. Paula is trapped in the center. She will be forced to actively mislead and undermine Gonzalez, the one detective capable of taking down the syndicate. Because telling the truth means exposing her own murderous past in Portland. And I don't know if Carl and Mallory will fade into the background in Idaho, but because Carl knows Paula's erratic nature better than anyone. From a distance, he will notice sudden, unexplainable stability or influxes of corporate cash. And if the Caleb footage leaks even slightly, Carl, who originally covered for her out of loyalty, will realize his ex-wife is a calculated killer. So I expect Carl to act as a looming long-distance threat, constantly hovering over her legal custody victory, ready to return from Boise the second Paula shows a single fracture. And I think the showrunner, David J. Rosen, I think he'll lean harder into the dark comedy of contrast. Paula attempting to subtly coordinate international blackmail drops via a chaotic group chat for school parents, maybe. I don't know. And some of the themes explored in this. There's like digital confessional and the monetization of loneliness. The webcam platform isn't just a narrative gimmick. It's a thematic lens showing how systematic isolation drives human beings to pay strangers for basic emotional vulnerability, transforming personal secrets into high-yield corporate data. And it's like a dark comedy born from balancing existential dread against absolute mundanity. Kind of like cutthroat global corporate syndicates is like structurally identical to surviving the petty passive-aggressive politics of suburban youth soccer group chat. And where this leaves Paula, I mean, she's not the hyper-competent hero operating on logic. She's a volatile, deeply flawed character whose survival relies on chaotic instincts, proving that her capacity for messy violence is precisely what makes her attractive to a corporate machine. So ultimately, Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed functions as a brilliant, razor-sharp antidote to modern streaming bloat. It's around 40 minutes an episode. It doesn't waste your time. It never treats the viewers like they're staring at their phone. And it balances the Hitchcockian mystery with the dark, left-of-center humor of a classic David Gordon Green project. While there are a few convenient plot mechanics along the way, the breathtaking pacing and the absolute powerhouse performance from Tatiana Maslany, Jake Johnson, and the ice-cold Murray Bartlett make this one of the most uniquely compelling watches on television. It's for anyone sick of wheel-spinning prestige dramas who want their thrillers punchy, unpredictable, and unapologetically messy. So I'm giving Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed Season 1 a highly enthusiastic 4 out of 5. But what did you think of the first season of Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Also, if you want to support the channel a little further, hit that join button down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.